Okay, so we're going to cover how do we go about determining body composition. Now, in lab, we go over different ways to measure circumference as well as limb length and a number of different measures. For this particular section and approach, we're going to consider body composition just purely fat mass and fat-free mass. And one of the original gold standard ways of doing this, well, start with the photo, is hydrostatic weighing. And essentially, again, you can kind of see a scale here. Someone's in a pool, and more or less they dunk themselves to be fully submerged, and the changes in water level the weight on the scale indicated will show us our density. So again, this is an approach or a measure that uses density to determine the difference between our total body mass and the body volume that we have. So that volume is an indication of density. And that's essentially a way based off of this kind of assumption that when we know the density or volume of our body, we can actually get an idea of the percentage of body fat because muscle is more dense than body fat. Now there's some there's some error that can occur with this because of the assumptions that we make in body density as far as how dense fat is relative to muscle, relative to our total body mass. But relatively speaking, this method is the gold standard that is often used for comparison. Okay. What will typically be done, both I'd say in lab, or what you'll do practically when you're say working as a trainer or a kinesiologist or whatever clients you happen to be working with in the health industry, and you'll typically use skin folds. Now, the reason for this is it's relatively cheap. It's specific, so you get some idea about specific body sites to a certain degree and how much subcutaneous fat is there. But you can also use it with a fairly accurate means to get a good understanding of total body fat, body mass, and therefore body composition. Now, it is significantly less accurate for a few reasons. One is human error. Definitely the skill of the practitioner and how different people that do skin fold testing will go about their measures will vary as well. And because of that, we'll see some less accurate and consistent measures due to those reasons. Yeah, and we cover this quite a bit in lab as far as how to go about the process. I love just always making the reminder when you go to a skin fold, you do a wide or broad grab or pinch, you pull, and you keep holding on to that person's skin fold until you put the calipers in. Take the calipers away after your measure, and then you let go of the fold, okay? So hold the fold all the way through. It is very uncomfortable for the person if you aren't holding on to that skin fold and you just have the calipers pinching. Just one more opportunity to be able to remind you all of that. And here's a tricep fold occurring. Another means of body composition is this device right here, this little pod, or plethysmography. Really what it's saying is just air. So instead of using fluid in a pool, it's using air. So you have a certain volume of air in the chamber, you get in, you displace a certain amount of air, and there's an equation that you can use to calculate the displacement. Is generally, because it's relying on the same principles as, say, underwater underwater displacement and weighing, it's going to have a similar accuracy as well. Okay. Bioelectric impedance. This is probably one of the most common that the general ways that the general population will figure out body fat percentage. And so you have two electrodes at different places on your body. In this individual here, you'll see that they have some on the hands, some on their feet, and you will literally have an electrical current pass through you. Now, occasionally, and perhaps more commonly, you'll have the scale, and so you'll have the electrical sensors under one foot, and then the other two under the other foot, and they send signals up arching through your body to connect the circuit. Now, again, depending on which method, what company, what technology, etc., this can be a fairly accurate way to measure body fat composition. I generally find, again, people's lower quality at-home scales or some that you even see in fitness facilities and gyms really aren't that accurate relative to, say, like Skinfold and or submersion or other methods. So just something to be aware of, especially if you're working with people that are tracking along at home or trying to use devices at fitness centers that may or may not be accurate. So I generally suggest having a multi-method approach. So bioimpedance plus Skinfold, or bioimpedance plus submersion, or because that's usually more expensive, time and intensive, and you need all the equipment. Now, before I forget, the way this works again is it has a relative speed at which the signal is expected to conduct through your body. So if you have a faster conductance, so therefore the impedance or the restriction of the signal is lower, that will indicate more fat-free mass, so more dense muscle, as an example. If you were to have, say, more body fat and more fat mass, what will happen is you'll have a lower conductance and higher impedance, so things are slowed down more in fat. Okay, and that's how bioimpedance works. Lastly, and I've done this before a few times as well, is something called a DEXA. Now, DEXA uses X-ray to essentially just X-ray your whole body. Again, nowadays X-ray doses are very low, but something to consider. For example, if you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, you probably wouldn't choose this method. But essentially they use X-rays, and from the actual X-ray cross-section of your body, the computer will calculate exactly. And what's kind of interesting about this is you can get limb-specific approximations of both fat mass and fat-free mass. So you can figure out, if there's inequalities of mass between your left and right legs, for example. It is fairly sensitive to small changes, which is great. That's one of its things, and it's considered a gold standard of body composition. So again, very similar to the volume displacement for either the dunk tank, or sorry, not dunk tank, I'll just trying to show you the hydrostatic weighing here, right, in the pool, or the air pod. We have our DEXA. Okay. And there are other methods such as total body water measures, MRI, or ultrasound, but these are used very infrequently. Okay. MRI machine, if you haven't seen it, and ultrasound. So just, I guess, to clarify and speak briefly to this, as it's not used very often, if you take an ultrasound, you can actually see the depth of the muscle. Here's another muscle, and then you can see the literal volume of the subcutaneous fat at this site. So you're more or less doing a imaging version of your Skinfold test for that particular site. Okay, and that was your brief run through of different ways that we can go about obtaining body mass or fat mass and fat-free mass, as well as some of the pros and cons to the use of those different techniques.